So recently my friends over on Kings and Generals and Cogito have been talking about the Aztecs and in a wider sense the earlier history of Mexico. And this got me thinking, well, where does the etymology of Mexico come from? Why is it called what it is, and are there any interesting historical tidbits that I can look at? The answer being, of course, yes, because there is interesting history almost anywhere you look. So really the early history of Mexico is that there were lots of different kingdoms and city-state groups, but one of them, who became known as the Mexica, were becoming the most powerful at sort of the dawn of the 16th century, the end of the 15th century. And these were of course the people that we now call the Aztecs or the Aztec Empire. Now, they are very interesting people, and actually they called themselves after one of their gods, who was Huitzilopochtli, and he was their national god, their war god. But like many other gods, like in the Norse traditions, he also had various nicknames and epithets that were given to him, one of them being Mexitl. And now Mexitl is where we get Mexico from, because Mexico, if you take down the etymology, comes back to the place of Mexitl. However, this is just one scenario, one theory behind the etymology. Another one has to do with the capital city of the Aztecs, the amazing city of Tenochtitlan, which is of course in the middle of this lake, which is why it's such an impressive, really memorable capital city to have had in history. And they believe that possibly it comes from the etymology of Metztli and Ixtli, and that these two words meaning moon and navel, and that therefore Mexico comes from the place at the center of the moon, obviously Mexico then referring to the city of the people called the Mexica, who we now call the Aztecs. Of course, everything would change with the arrival of the Spanish, and as you can imagine, it's maybe a bit weird that they didn't choose a Spanish word to replace the native Nahuatl word for the area around that region. And of course, this city, the capital city of the Aztecs, was called Tenochtitlan. But when the Spanish took over, they named it Ciudad de Mexico, or Mexico City in English. Probably again naming it because large parts of Tenochtitlan had been destroyed during the various sieges there, and they probably named it after the people who called themselves the Mexica, who we call the Aztecs. Now in 1810, the Mexican Revolution started, which is when the Mexicans fought against the Spanish for an independent country. And in 1821, the Mexican Empire was proclaimed. It was very short-lived, but they of course named that, and the country for short, Mexico, because it was the area around the city that had been called the City of Mexico, again going back to the Aztecs there, rather than New Spain, which is what the Spanish had called the region of Mexico, although even in Spanish times, people had started referring to the entire country, or it's rather an official jurisdiction rather than a country back then, as Mexico, the area around that city. And of course, today, the name has stuck around even though Mexico is no longer a monarchy and it's had various types of governments, it is still referred to as Mexico. But that leaves one question. I've been talking about the Aztecs and the Mexica, but how has Mexica gone to Aztec when we're talking about the indigenous people of the central Mexican region? Well, this is another interesting thing, and really Aztec, the etymology of that comes from Aztlan or Aztlan. And this comes from the fact that they were called this by the people, their enemies. They called themselves the Mexica. However, when the Spanish came, and probably that's why in the European languages, they communicated with the enemies of the Aztecs, so possibly the Tlaxcalans, for instance. And with these, they helped to destroy the Aztec Empire. They fought with each other against the Aztecs. And probably also why we get the enemy word for that, which is the people from Aztlan, which makes them the Aztecs. Alright everyone, so this has been a bit of a shorter video, I hope you don't mind, but I thought it was an interesting topic, and I've really been enjoying the stuff that Cogito and Kings and Generals have been putting up about the Aztecs, who are a very interesting people. Now, I am also going to be doing a video at some point in a video series on the Incas, who are another of these South American peoples, because I think South America has a very interesting history, especially the native history. That's always been one of the things that I've been passionate about in history as well. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Do go out and check their videos as well, and I hope you'll enjoy the coming stuff on the Incas in the future. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. This is The History, and I'm Hilbert.